Why did you and your ex break up? Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy. Thanks. Story 1. I didn't have my shit together yet and was selfish and unreliable. She thought she deserved better, and back then, she was right. I've come a long way since then. Story 2. My ex-wife filed for divorce to teach me a lesson, thinking I would try to stop the divorce. She was piping mad when I didn't, though. Story 3. She said she would kill herself if I left. I stayed and began to resent her and slowly push her away. She cheated. We broke up. 0/10, would not recommend. Story 4. She cheated on me with a convicted pedophile, then she left me for the pedophile. We have 3 kids together and, unsurprisingly, they all live with me. Story 5. She went to Hawaii for a girls' weekend, came back and told me she wants to focus on her career without worrying about me, and broke it off after 4 years. She probably cheated on me. Story 6. Apparently I was the love of her life. She couldn't bear the thought of not being with me, and she'd just die if I ever cheated on her, right up until she casually announced she was leaving me for one of the 2 guys she'd been fucking behind my back. And I should just shut up and get over it because it's not like we were at all serious or anything. Cut good friends out of my life because she didn't like them. Stop standing up for myself because it wasn't worth the arguments. Worked 10 to 14 hours a night and still she abused me for not doing the housework. I genuinely tried. She worked 6 hours a day and rarely did any chores at all. But I wanted to make it work, so I tried to talk to her about my feelings and problems. She called me lazy and played the victim, and every time I let her make me the bad guy. All I wanted was for her to be happy. I never stopped her seeing her friends or doing the things she liked. I never complained when she wasted all our money on her whim of the week. So when she asked if she could hang out with her ex, just as friends, I said yes, because I trusted her and I told her as much. I may not trust him, but I trusted her. A few weeks later I get home at 11 p.m. and she breaks down crying, tells me she cheated on me with him. I was obviously devastated, but I could have forgiven her, could have still tried to move on, but then she gave me the real gut punch. I love you, but I just don't think I'm in love with you anymore. And that was it. I told her to get out. A week later she came back saying she still loved me. She just wanted me to fight for her. I told her the truth. I will never fight for something that doesn't exist. She said she wasn't in love anymore, so there was nothing to fight for. And if I have to fight another man for your affection, I don't want it. Fast forward 6 months and she calls to say she's pregnant and the guy denies that he's the father. She says she fucked up and wants another chance. No. So to all the women out there, don't take advantage of a good man. If he's not number 1 for you, he won't fight for second place. Story 9. We'd been in a committed relationship for 7 years. We were both in our 40s, and we had a plan to get married after her last child finished college, which would take another 7 years. She lost patience, found another guy who said he wanted to get married again much sooner, and she ended it with me. Spoiler alert, they got engaged about 1.5 years later. But apparently he wouldn't agree to a date for the wedding. After being engaged for over 4 years, she finally figured out that he lied about wanting to get married. They broke up about the time we originally planned to get married. Story 11. He got violent. Story 12. Wasn't ready for a relationship at all. Came into it with a lot of baggage. I hated many aspects of myself, had no self-esteem or confidence. We were in uni and matched via Tinder, so it's not like I had to put in actual work to pursue her. Long story short, I became overwhelmingly attached and really put her on a pedestal. There was a whole lot of love bombing as well. She finally got suffocated with my nonsense and jumped ship after 3 months. I took the breakup horribly, and for about 3 to 4 years, I remained in a really bad state with even worse baggage as a result of how I perceived the breakup. One day, I faced some really strong marijuana and decided to reflect on the past. All the reasons for the breakup became clear, and I started to see why she felt the way she did. I've since then improved myself and can finally say I am now slightly above the baseline amount of confidence with self-esteem. Was most deep into the negatives before. Story 14. I took time off from work to take care of her parents. Her mom died, and it hit her hard. I continued taking care of her dad, but she was so stressed she would go out with her daughters and friends from work to de-stress. After 2 years of staying at her parents' house 24/7 and right before her dad died, she told me I was a godsend and she wanted a divorce. She locked me out of our house and had the attorney she was working with declare I had abandoned it so she could keep everything. Turned out her nights with our daughters and with her friends were actually with her boyfriend. She got the house and the inheritance and a new boyfriend. I got nothing. Story 16. Aside from other issues, the final straw was when my dad's cancer came back and they decided to not ask me how I was, and then an hour after finding out proceeded to have a go at me for not feeling up to going out. Ended it straight away, fuck that shit. Story 17. I told him I thought I was preg so he kicked me in the stomach. I wasn't, thank God. Story 18. Came back home from work like every single day. She said she wanted to talk, told me she wasn't fulfilled anymore with me and she wants to break up. Bonus point. She told me that she cheated on me few weeks ago. Had 2 days to take all my stuff and leave our apartment. Came back to my father's apartment. End of the story. Story 20. Well, it all started when we had a heated argument about the best programming language. I said Python, and my ex insisted it was Java. We just couldn't see eye to eye on it, and things got really codependent after that. Story 21. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not easy to date. Anxiety, bad past dating experiences. I'd been cheated on twice before, so naturally I like to keep new partners at arm's length at first because I'm aware I have a tendency to go all in early in a relationship. My ex was also the kind who moves quickly. We were officially an exclusive couple 2 weeks after we first talked. A week after that, about 3 weeks since we met, she said I love you, and I did my best to explain that as much as I cared for her then, I felt like it was a tad bit too fast. By this time, I'd already told her about the being cheated on part. She then proceeded to use it against me, saying that I was just letting past traumas affect me and that I had no trust in her. I gave in and said it back moments later, thinking maybe I had been wrong to be hesitant. From there, the relationship dynamic was like that. Every time I didn't do exactly what she wanted, I'd end up thinking it was my fault for not being trusting enough, and that I had to prove myself to her. I was slipping back into old habits, allowing myself to invest too much, telling myself that it was fine because I was just showing that I was committed and that I was past my bad experiences or something. I slowly started hanging out less with friends, skipping on workouts, all because she would ask me to spend more time with her. Not a fan of who I was becoming when we were together. Story 23. She said she felt underappreciated. I spent 5 years building a foundation for the rest of our lives, obtaining a master's and full-time position so food would always be on the table, getting a car so we would be mobile and able to travel, getting a flat that we could make into a home. Within the same year of all the accomplishments, between Christmas and New Year's, she sat me down and told me she wanted to end it. That was 2 years ago, and I'm still trying to pick up the pieces. Story 25. It was doomed from the beginning. I'm a Sagittarius and she's a total bitch. Story 26. We talked it out and then stopped dating to stay friends. Story 27. Priorities changed for us along the way. Story 28. She took advantage of me. She used me, especially after her father died. I tried moving her away from where she was to help her start a new and improved life. She was addicted to meth but said she'd stop for us, and it was just to deal with the trauma of her father passing. 2 was working 80 to 100-hour weeks and came home to her cheating on me. Then I found out it was with multiple people on multiple occasions. Story 30. Tried to break up with her but she talked me out of it, just to cheat on me later on and break up with me. Story 31. As nicely as I can put it, she prefers to be in the kind of relationship where the man tells her what to do, while she runs his life and his career. I had no interest in ordering her around or restricting her on a day-to-day basis, and definitely no interest in her telling me where I was going to live and what job I was going to do. Being together a decade, starting from college age, is a gamble. Most people have no fucking clue what they want with their life, nor have they lived at that point. Up until you're 25 to 35, your taste in everything is still up in the air, and only after that some start to slow down with their change. She went in a different direction than me, and she also had a bigger drive and a better sense of direction than me at the time. I was still kinda aimless, and just falling from gymnasium to university to apprenticeships to finally a job when we split. Things were usually good between us, always. The only thing I couldn't agree with was her mom having control over her life. She couldn't do anything without her mom's approval. Her mom specifically asked me to move across the country, in person, to make sure I never separated her from her daughter. I live in Cali and my profession at that time was a commercial or residential painter. I thrived in my field of work, made good money. I wasn't going to leave. My ex and I had an agreement though, that she'd eventually come to my state as I was better off to support us. Over the last 3 to 4 years of the relationship, I clearly saw it would never happen. She was so sheltered. She would admit she couldn't go through an airport alone. Times where I'd pay for her to come to me for a week or two, she'd ask her mom and her mom would deny it. I had talks with her that it wasn't normal, etc. But she lived in the sticks with no car, never had a job, and her mom outright refused to drive her to an airport. That way she wouldn't let her daughter out of her arms basically. I flew out to see her many times, spent thousands on airplane tickets, but she could never come to me. I originally started dating her cause I liked who she was and I had low self-confidence, so figured why not have a long-distance relationship. It went way longer than I ever imagined it would. On the 4th year one cheated a few times. I was closing myself off from her too. I was being shady, hitting the gym 6 days a week. I had girls snapping their heads looking my way. Girls I thought were out of my league too. And that's where my self-confidence grew again. So I had cheated. I knew deep down our relationship wasn't going to be even before I started working out. But I lead her on like a piece of shit for 2 more years. She never found out, thankfully. She never deserved to know. During the last few months of the relationship, we didn't talk nearly as much. We were just friends and she treated it the same way as that. I felt like a friend for years. One day I was struggling on a job on my own. Didn't have nearly enough paint for the week I had in front of me. Went to the paint store. I've been to this paint store many times. Even with co-workers, we'd all admire the one girl and talk about how cool and hot she was. One of them was always trying to get her number because he was a straight-up ladies' man. He never got it, and she never acknowledged it. When I came in on that shitty-ass day, that girl at the paint store, that was basically a model, was complimenting me and telling me all kinds of nice things. She had to roll out the paint to my car after my order was placed. I was nervous AF, but took a leap. Ended up getting her number and had her in my hotel the same day. My confidence boosted so fucking high. We hooked up a few times after, and then I ghosted her cause it wasn't right. I knew I needed to end things with my current girlfriend, but she was a good and loyal person, and I couldn't tell her what I did, so I just lead her on, like a piece of shit. During the last few months of our relationship, her family was trying to get a cabin in the woods. Had a hot tub, 2 stories, fine diners near us, just a straight-up vacation. They wanted to pay for my ticket and my part for the cabin. I declined. I told my girlfriend I wasn't coming out there until she had finally flown out to me, so I could do the same things her parents were offering me. She refused. We didn't talk for a week after that. Then after that week I had called her and we talked a lot about my reasonings and why my reasonings shouldn't matter. She slipped up a couple hours into that phone call and I had realized she had me on speaker with her mom and called her out. I was right too. I ended it right there. I actually wanted to be a player. I did just that. I was on Tinder after that and hooked up with a lot of women. I worked Monday, Friday, every week without fail. Then met my current girl. She stopped me dead in my tracks, but now I'm wondering if karma came back at me, lol. Guess I'll find out. I don't get to share this often. It was a good flashback to reflect and further remind myself to get into a better spot mentally. What I did was immature, naive, and a waste of her time and mine. I actually did call her back up 3 to 4 years later and explained what happened. Story 34. She had her first time with me. After she got comfortable with sex, she became hypersexual, which was awesome for a minute, until she would just regularly express her interest in fucking just about anyone else. Despite never cheating on me, it absolutely destroyed my self-worth and self-esteem, and eventually destroyed the relationship. Afterwards, she felt the need to inform me about her hoe phase, in which she had unprotected sex with several men like a week after leaving me. I didn't eat for 4 days after hearing that. Instead of telling the truth straight up, he claimed it was for 2 further months before telling the actual truth. He would fake panic attacks because he would have flashbacks to the every time we were intimate. He knew I was fully prepared to pay for him to see a psychologist, and I would have been in jail if I ever saw the chick who RD him. He was also very controlling, would go through my phone and block people without my knowledge, wouldn't allow me to hang out with any guys, would monitor every text I sent, but I wasn't allowed to see his phone. And I am grateful this happened every day, because I wouldn't be where I am now, and I wouldn't be with my partner.